What's up, vinyl community? It's Jason coming at you from the Jazz Basement. Hope you're doing well. It's been a minute since I did a video, so I thought it'd be good to check in with you all. All is good here in the Jazz Basement. Been busy, so been traveling a bit, and anyway, that's where we are. Have a lot of great stuff to show you today. Been traveling a bit, as I mentioned. Have a couple of stories, so this video might be on the longer side, but I think it'll be worth it. I think it'll be worth your time. So, if you recall, maybe a year ago, I had a video called "I went to my first record fair" here in DC, and there was another iteration of that a couple of weeks ago. So, had a little bit of time. One of the local shops here, Som Records, is a big part of it. And I asked him, hey, do you have any tips? And he's like, either go early or go late. And the way my schedule worked out was it was going to be on the late side. So I went late with a bunch of cash and tried to see what I could get. This iteration was much better. More vendors, a lot more folks bringing in jazz collections, really interesting. I mean, record fairs are great. You get a little bit of everything. People digging through the dollar bin stuff to, $1,000 records up on the wall. So something for everyone. And I was able to pick up something that I've been looking for a while. I didn't have anything from Ike Quebec. Been streaming him a lot and just don't see his records come up all that much, and when they do, they're gone. So found a vendor, I think from actually New York City, that was there. They had one up on their wall, kind of behind their booth. Checked it out. It's in great shape, and basically transacted. So I got to come home with this beautiful original stereo press of Blue and Sentimental by Ike Quebec. Super clean. I would say it's near mint. So great. Quite the lineup too. Grant Green, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. Obviously, Ike Quebec. Just love his real bluesy soul tone. Great pickup. The next one was courtesy of our friends at HR Records. It's actually one of the owners, Charvis, came from his personal collection. So he reached out and said, hey, I know this is one you've been looking for. Looking to make a deal, and talked a bit, checked it out, and it is a great session. It's an amazing session. One of the few sessions that are led by a bassist, and it's the Paul Chambers Quintet, Blue Note 1564, featuring Donald Byrd, Cliff Jordan, Tommy Flanagan, and Elvin Jones. Great lineup. Pretty challenging to find. This is super clean. It's on the West 63rd label, so there's no ink or no registered trademark. I love Clifford Jordan. Cliffcraft I picked up last year. It's amazing. Whenever I can see him as a sideman, I try and pick something up. And I really love Tommy Flanagan on the piano. He's the pianist on Saxophone Colossus, so you've definitely heard his work. Awesome pickup. Thank you, Charvis. This is great. I spin it a lot. Amazing. Back in November, I was in Japan for work. So obviously I had to go check out these legendary jazz record stores. So was pretty busy all week. I had Friday night. Had some time Friday night, so I went to Shibuya, which is the big shopping district. It's famous for the 7 different crosswalks, and it's just kind of chaos. But I went to Disc Union. They have a lot of different stores throughout Tokyo, but they had one that was dedicated to jazz, and it was everything you could have hoped for. They had I don't know, like a dozen original presses up on the wall, probably more than that. But it was like original Waltz for Debbie, original Giant Steps. They had a Hank Mobley, one of the original 1500 series Hank Mobleys. Just a bunch of stuff. And what was interesting about it was their grading scale is not sort of gold mine, right? It's not VG plus. It's A, B, C, and D. So I think like a B record would roughly be VG plus. And basically a B or a B plus is going to make most collectors pretty happy. Or and then anything once you get up into the A range, it's pretty much perfect. So what was interesting about that is the prices. The yen was quite weak relative to the dollar, so I thought, hey, maybe I'll get a bargain, in a relative sense. That wasn't really the case. I think in this particular record, I did get a decent deal, at least compared to a recent, issue that was sold on eBay. Not that eBay is a great barometer of the market, but anyway, I picked this one up. I saw it. I had never seen it before, and had heard about it. But here comes Lewis Smith. It's original press, featuring Buckshot LaFunk, aka Cannonball Adderley. He was under license, I think, at Riverside at the time. I don't quote me on that. So they couldn't say Cannonball Adderley. They had to come up with some sort of name around that. Buckshot LaFunk. Duke Jordan on piano, Tommy Flanagan again on piano, Doug Watkins on bass, Art Taylor, and then Lewis Smith's the trumpet player. What's really interesting about this, it's also on the West 63rd, so no ink and no R. What's interesting about Lewis Smith is he cut a couple of records and then just kind of disappeared. He just like left the jazz scene and became like, I don't know if it was high school or elementary teacher. He became a teacher, and that was his career. So a lot of talent. The other one that he did that's pretty hard to find is called Smithville, but he is featured as a sideman. This is a pretty good record. It's not my absolute favorite record, but it is very good, and happy to have it in the collection. But it was really cool, the whole Japanese record store experience. And it's one of those things that sounds kind of crazy to think of, but when you're in the U.S. and you might come across a Japanese press, and you're like, oh wow, this is really cool. And what you kind of forget is when you're in Japan, the domestic market is Japanese presses. So when I first went, it's like, oh wow, man, they have a lot of Japanese presses. Look at all these, records with the obi. And it's like, yes, you're in Japan. They're going to be Japanese presses. So felt a little bit dumb, but it was pretty cool nonetheless. The next one is a kind of a crazy story. And I was traveling again for work. I was in Los Angeles. I had an afternoon meeting. And then the way that the flights work out, if you're on the West Coast and you want to get back to the East Coast, basically, if you're not on a flight by like 1 or 2 p.m., the next option is a red eye. So I had a red eye home. Flight left at midnight. Had a bunch of time after my meeting. And Los Angeles is huge. You look on a map and you're like, oh, this is only 5 or 6 miles. But depending on the time of day, that 5 or 6 mile trip could take you 45 minutes, an hour or more. So I tried to find an area of Los Angeles where there was a decent density of record stores, and ended up in Hollywood, West Hollywood, I think. So I went to Amoeba. Amoeba was very cool. Didn't have anything that I was looking for, but I mean, if you're looking for, pretty much any genre, lots of new, mostly new releases. I didn't see a lot of used, but just a totally cool scene. Had to go. You had to go to Amoeba. I didn't buy anything when I was there, but I did find. I was like, okay, there's what's like the jazz shop in Los Angeles. There's got to be something, and did a Google search and found a record store that had like 1.2 or 1.5 stars on Yelp. That was like the average rating. It was like hundreds of ratings. It's like, wow, that is interesting. Let me look at this. And a lot of people were like, hey, it's a record store, but it's not. You can't really browse. The owner's kind of grumpy. And then I looked for a couple of 5-star reviews, and they're like, if you know what you want, there's no better record store on the planet. So I was like, I got to check this out. This sounds insane. And it's called The Record Collector. It's on Melrose. And I walked in, and the guy, there's 2 people that work there, the owner and an assistant. and there's no like wall, there's no like bins to flip through. It's like walking into a library. So there's just rows and rows and rows of records, and they're not. I'll give you, this is what I got. More on that later. But they're not set up where you can see it like this. They're literally like you would store them, and it's just thousands and thousands. They have about a half a million records in the store, like floor to ceiling, set up like a library. So it's not really conducive to browsing. And the first question the guy's like, "What are you looking for?" Right? And it's like, "All right, well, you really want to know what I'm looking for?" You're like, A, B, C, and D. And he's like, "Ah, okay. You're kind of into that type of jazz or whatever." And he was kind of felt like he was sizing you up, not from a business transaction perspective, but from a what do you like musically. It sounds like he gets a lot of people that just kind of come off the streets that are looking for, just want to browse around and find the dollar bin stuff. This was one of the most curated collections that I've seen. The guy's been in business for like 50 years. Um, and had a discussion with him and passed the sniff test, and he just like let me loose. And he's just like, if you're looking for something in particular, let us know. We know where it is. If you just want to like browse, you kind of can. And he's like, jazz section starts here. We've got 5 rows, A to Z, each row. So 5 of those, and each row was probably 20 feet long, right? I mean, it was insane. So I started it over, and it was like three original copies of something else, and you just go down, and it was almost overwhelming. It was overwhelming. You're just like, oh my god, I could spend all day here. None of the records had prices. Um, they were very kind of like around, and like they actually started making recommendations. And like, oh well, if you like this, you might like this, and pulling stuff down, and tried to be really disciplined about it. And I think there were 3 records that I wanted. Again, there's no prices on it, so it's like, hey, how much is this? Um, and he didn't have like the internet or Discogs. He had like this phone book looking price guide. He just would flip it up, and he'd look something up, and he'd be like, well, what about 200 for this? And it's like, that's too much. I'm like, well, how about this? And so 2 of the 3 I passed on, but the one that I came home with was Eric Dolphy, Outward Bound, original press. It's actually a promo, which I didn't know until later. So got the preview copy right there on the purple label. So this Dolphy's kind of known to be kind of out there in no pun intended, in the free jazz world. I think this was released in 1960, 1961. So it's not too far off the deep end. It's not, I wouldn't even say it's off the deep end, or even really free jazz. I don't know the nomenclature, but I found it pretty accessible. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. I think Analog Productions or Acoustic Sounds has done a reissue of some of these recently. It's worth picking up. Of his work, I feel like this appeals to broader masses. All right, 3 more to go. These are heavy. So another local record store that I go to is the Record Exchange of Silver Spring. Have a great relationship with Sheila and Brian, who are the proprietors there, and they have um, a customer that comes in and just has an incredible jazz collection, and will just like once a month come in and drop off like 5 or 10 things, and it's pretty serious stuff. It's all in really great shape. So the very first record that I bought this year in 2023, I bought on January 2nd. And they had reached out and said, hey, Jason, got something I think you're going to be interested in. And it's Shades of Red, Freddie Redd Quintet. So Jackie McLean, Tina Brooks, Paul Chambers, Lewis Hayes, and obviously Freddie Redd. It is on Freddie Redd on piano. Um, amazing session. Is it top 5? It's a top 10 Blue Note session for me. Amazing. And you can see this thing is the jacket is incredibly clean. The wax is the same way, just awesome. Spin it a lot. It's just got a really great energy, great vibe to it. And I think this is a tough one to find. I don't think that, I know it is, but I think Blue Note, I think it's a Tone Poet or a classic series coming out later this year. Put it on your want list, add to cart. Do not think twice. Just get it. If you want to get an original, that's fine too. But trust me, I don't like to make blind recommendations. I think most of you viewers would really enjoy this. And it's what, $27, $28 here in the US. A week later, they come back and they say, "Hey, our guy came in, dropped something off. Are you interested in any of these?" And some of them I had. Um, but this next one is also mid. I would say top 10. I'm not going to say top five. It's not like a Basra for me, but another one that's a tough find. Um, Starbright, Dizzy Reese. Again, this is like everything in this guy's collection is just money, literally and figuratively, or condition wise and whatnot. So you got Dizzy Reese on trumpet, Hank Mobley on sax, Wynton Kelly on the piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Taylor on the drums. Beautiful session. This actually drops as a classic series in 2 days. So highly recommend this one. Of all the Dizzy Reese albums, I have three. This is my favorite by far. Top 10, top 15 Blue Note for me. It's great. Great stuff. Dizzy Reese is a Jamaican trumpeter. Now the last one is the most recent one that I got. Never expected to own this one, but last year I had the good fortune of coming across a Johnny Griffin Volume 2, which is a blowing session featuring just an all-star cast. That is a top five Blue Note for me. Um, and Johnny Griffin just brings this energy and fire to his playing. Volume 2 featured John Coltrane on a couple of tracks as well. So, but he actually had the Volume 1 is introducing Johnny Griffin. It's the Blue Note 1533. Very hard to find. As hard to find. Most of Johnny Griffin stuff on Blue Note is impossibly hard to find. There's Volume 1, Volume 2, and the Congregation, I think, is one that's a little bit later on. But the Piece de Resistance, original press of introducing Johnny Griffin, Blue Note 1533. Lexington Avenue labels, super clean. I would grade this excellent. And I'll take it out and show you guys. Just, like new. Love it. And what's great, this is like one of the favorite things whenever I see some of these old ones that are in great shape, is sometimes you get the original inners and you get this like kind of rice paper thing. But you can tell there's a little bit of a fold here, but obviously this was not spun very much, which is mind-blowing given how good the session is. But yeah, Johnny Griffin, introducing Johnny Griffin, Chicago Calling, featuring Johnny Griffin on the sax, Wynton Kelly on piano, Curly Russell on bass, Max Roche on drums. Awesome. This may have been a Blue Note 80th anniversary. I forget. I like Volume 2 better, but this is right there. So pretty crazy. So I know I haven't done a lot of videos. It's not for lack of trying. It's certainly not for lack of buying records. But I have slowed down a little bit. I'm not buying as much as last year. Last year was just insane. So I'm picking my spots, focusing on stuff that I really, really want, being patient around condition. And just when find something that lines up with what I'm looking for, going after it. If it's in the sweet spot, kind of going for it. So anyway, good to speak with you all again. I'm going to try my best to just be more regular on these videos. I appreciate the support, and some of you reach out and say, hey, is everything okay? Everything's good in the Jazz basement. It's just a matter of kind of getting out there and getting videos done. So hope you enjoyed it, and we will speak to you soon. Thanks.